Howdy, boys and girls. Chris here again with some more Cursed Curations. Oh boy. I nearly forgot to wake up one time when I was actually supposed to do this. About an hour or so late, but hey, better late than never. That's what at least I like to say sometimes. Only sometimes. So first up on our lovely list of the day is The Adventures of Robin Hood. So this is a film I actually watched when I was a small child. I thought this is the basically the best film ever when it came to the whole adventure of Robin Hood. It's a film that you can't really top. I mean, okay, of course, they have made remakes of this classic film, and they weren't horrible, but it doesn't really beat the classic upbeat of what this has going on. The freaking fights are just amazing, immaculate, if you will. So the story's about when Prince John and the Norman lords begin oppressing the Saxon masses in King Richard's absence. In the 1190s, England, a Saxon lord fights back as the outlaw leader of the resistance movement. That's basically, the whole rundown for the film. There's a lot more to it, obviously, than that, but it's a pretty simple way of describing it. So, our lovely cast for this, of course, is Errol Flynn, who plays as Robin Hood, Olivia de Havilland, who plays the maid Marion, who is our main love interest in this lovely film. Olivia is a character, or rather a person, who we have seen a great many times on the channel, and yes, eventually she'll be getting her own legend lens when I decide to actually work on the one that I'm still having the background. It's so much work that goes into a legend lens because I have to look at every little detail and condense it down into a near 10 to 15 minute long video, basically. Besides that, of course, we have Basil Rathbone, Claude Rains. Who else we have here? Oh, for our directors is Michael Curtis and William Cayley. Lovely, very lovely. So, sorry, I had some pizza for this, and pizza makes me cough a lot. I'm not sure why. Might be some sort of allergy thing going on there, but who knows? Who cares really? So a bit more on the storyline where we actually hop into trivia. Sir Robin of Locksley, defender of downtrodden Saxons, runs afoul of Norman authority and is forced to turn outlaw. But with his band of merry men, he robs from the rich and gives to the poor, and still has time to woo the lovely maid Marion, and full of a cruel Sir Guy of Guysbourne, and keep the nefarious Prince John off the throne. W Mans. One sec. Quick little tip of order. Alright, on to trivia. My favorite part of any video I do here. This one, so I won't say it'll be a shorter video. There is only one or two films I did not look at, but meh. It'll be roughly around the same length as usual. The archery tournament was shot at the now gone Busch Gardens in Pasadena, California, which was later used for the Wilkes Plantation exteriors, and Gone with the Wind in 1939, among many other films. I mean, it's pretty cool knowing that, this once kind of iconic place that was used for films is kind of gone, but it's still inside these films, so at least it's not gone for good, I suppose. During one fight sequence, Errol Flynn was jabbed by an actor who was using an unprotected sword. He asked him why he didn't have a guard on the point. The other player apologized and explained that director Michael Curtis had instructed him to remove the safety feature in order to make the action more exciting. Flynn reportedly climbed up a gantry where Curtis was standing next to the camera, took him by the throat, and asked him if he found something. I'm sorry. If he found that exciting enough. That is so fucking badass. Freaking Flynn. You better earn yourself a legend lens, buddy. That's hilarious. The production used all 11 of the Technicolor cameras in existence in 1938, and they were all returned to Technicolor at the end of each day's filming. Hey, at least they're responsible. Heavily padded stunt players and actors were paid $150 per arrow for being shot by Howard Hill. That's cool. Well, this is a film that I honestly want to rank pretty high up for, the first film of the day. This gets a 9. I truly enjoyed this. When we get to the sci-fis, when I had to, review which film I, for each of the categories, this is most likely getting mentioned at least once or twice. But let's go to the next film, which is ironically enough, kind of a similar thing going here. A merry band. This time it's a ragtime band. Different, time frame, obviously, different time frame. So this lovely film is called Alexander's Ragtime Band. This send-up of ragtime song and dance begins in 1915 in San Francisco, when society boy Roger Grant decides to pursue popular rather than serious music. Okay, sorry, I'm like, how am I trying to word this here? So our director here is Henry King, and our stars is Tyrone Power, Alice Faye, and Donna Mishi. And I believe we have talked about Tyrone Power at least once. It has been a while. So I had to get some water there to keep myself going, because whenever I do these, because these are longer videos, I tend to get parched very easily and my mouth gets very, very what's the word? Dry. So let me go down to just a little bit of additional details here. Roger Grant, a classical violinist, disappoints his family and teacher when he organizes a jazz band, but the band becomes successful. Roger falls in love with his singer Stella, but his reluctance to lose her leads him to thwart her efforts to become a solo star. When the World War separates them in 1917, Stella marries Roger's best friend, Charlie. Roger comes home after the war, and an important concert at Carnegie Hall brings the corners of the romantic triangle together. Ah. So, this is a film I believe I only had the time to watch half of. This is a half one, but I do recall loving the music. The music was honestly really good. When it comes to these how do I say this, musical-esque films, because this film, if I remember correctly, it is a musical. I don't particularly care for musicals, as I've made very clear throughout all of this. But I really enjoyed the Prohibition era stuff going on here. This film had a lot going for it, and I do need to go back and actually finish the entire film. I will say that. So let's go to the trivia. Due to Motion Pictures Production Code, which was written in force between 1934 to 1968, this film's content was subject to rigid censorship. In her autobiography, Ethel Merman said that the original lyrics to Heat Wave, she started a heat wave by letting her seat wave was changed from a movie to she started a heat wave by letting her feet wave. Ooh boy, that's a scandalous. Irving Berlin, or Berlin, I suppose, personally singled out Alice Faye to play the female lead. Irving Berlin bolted the idea of a biopic about him, as he felt it would be too personally intrusive. Plus, the idea to form a fictional story showcasing a large number of his songs was hatched. Okay. So how do I feel about this film? I cannot give an honest score because I did not finish it, obviously. But in the state that I did finish it, like about halfway, a little bit less than half, I want to give it a 6. When I do a flashback, to actually, cover a bunch of films I missed, I will briefly mention the films that I did cover already. Ones I didn't, completely watch or didn't watch at all. Then I will give a fair review then. But yeah, 6 for now. But it'll be updated to be greater or less than in another video. So that's that. Alright, peeps, on to our next lovely film. So if I recall correctly, we covered a film prior to this one that it takes place in the same universe, I guess. I might be wrong here, or I'm misremembering something. But this film is called Algiers. A wanted jewel thief encamped in the Casbah meets a beautiful woman who makes him long for an escape. So I recall a film where it was about this man who was so beloved by the people, but he was basically a prisoner, basically. In the area that he was in, because he was so entranced by a woman. And that's kind of what I'm getting from this. This might be like a remake, maybe? Unsure. But our protagonists, or rather our leads here, I'm skipping over the actual director, John Cromwell, that's a name I do recognize, and our stars is Charles Boyer, Hedy Lamarr, and Sigrid Guri. Ooh, she sounds Danish or Swedish in that region, I suppose, very least. So to describe the storyline a little bit more, just for the people who don't like don't like the simple description, is Pepe Le Moco, a thief who escaped from France with a fortune in jewels, has for 2 years lived in and virtually ruled the maze-like impenetrable Casbah, native quarter of Algiers. A French official insists that he be captured, but sly Inspector Slimane knows he needs only bide his time. The swab Pepe increasingly regards his stronghold as his prison, especially when he meets beautiful Parisian visitor Gabby. He reminds him of the billboards to which he dare not return, and arouses the mad jealousy of Inez, his Algerian mistress. Okay. This is a film I did finish, and I swear there was another film just like this. This literally might just be a remake of what that was. But time for some trivia. An animator, Chuck Jones, based a Warner Brothers cartoon character Pepe Le Pew on Pew Le Moco. The allure of Hedy Lamarr and an exact location of the Casbah were two of the chief inspirations for Casablanca in 1942, but MGM refused to release Lamarr from her contract for the Warner Brothers film. Remake of the French Pepe Le Moco. Oh, yep, I was right. 1937, when Walter Wagner produced this film, he tried to have all copies of the original destroyed. Fortunately, he was unsuccessful. The title for this film was inspiration for Casablanca in 1942. And Casablanca is a film that is mentioned a lot by a lot of people. Apparently, it was like basically a very legendary-esque film. I have not watched it yet, and I do plan to do it sometime next week. It'll be very fun for me, because for the list that me and Oz composed for this series, he ended it at 1939, and he was supposed to send me, the additional stuff, but he never did after a falling out. So I'll be updating the list with films going well into the 40s. So we'll be seeing that happen. Yay. So let us go to the next film. Oh, wait, I forgot to give us a very lovely score. My apologies, you lovely people. Give me one moment. So for Algiers, I want to give this film a easy 7. I think the film is deserving of a 7. What I did not care for was, okay, I get it's the entire premise that he's a prisoner, kinda, not really. He feels like one. And the whole thing involving not a love triangle, it is kind of a love triangle going on. I don't care for that. Love triangles are kind of all the same after a while. Yeah, just me. So the next film is called Angels with Dirty Faces. So, to describe this lovely film, let me go to the lovely description. Boyhood friends Rocky Sullivan and Jerry Connolly have taken different paths in life. After Rocky is arrested, he is sent to a juvenile facility and becomes a lifelong tough guy and criminal. Meanwhile, Jerry goes straight and becomes a Catholic priest, ministering to people in the same neighborhood where he and Rocky grew up. Rocky is released from prison, and he resumes his criminal lifestyle and becomes much admired by many of the local kids. Worded the kids will follow Rocky in the criminal world, Jerry works hard to keeps them on a straight and narrow. After Rocky is convicted and sentenced to the electric chair, Jerry asks him for one last favor. Okay. So, we have a pretty cool cast of people here. So our director is Michael Curtis. We've seen him a number of times already. Next up is James Cagney, the Cagman, Pat O'Brien, and Humphrey Bogart. So this is a very strong cast, just from going like those three people off the cuff. So besides them, we do have a few other people. We have Ann Sheridan, George Bancroft, Billy Hallup, Bobby Jordan, Leo Gorcey, Gabriel Dell, Hunts Hall, and Bernard Punsley. We do have plenty of other people here, but those are the ones immediately that strikes me in here. So let us go to the trivia of the day. The dead-end kids terrorize the set during shooting. They threw other actors off their ad-libbing, and once quartered co-star Humphrey Bogart install his trousers. Jesus, they didn't figure on James Cagney's street-bred toughness. However, the first time Leo Gorcey pulled an ad-lib on Cagney, the star stiff-armed a young actor right above the nose, and from then on the gang behaved. I love that so much. A montage features a shot of gangsters bombing a storefront. This shot is an alternate angle of the bombing of a store in the Public Enemy in 1931, which I believe me and Oz did cover. I might be misremembering. To play Rocky, James Cagney drew on his memories of growing up in New York, Yorkville, a tough ethnic neighborhood on the Upper East Side, just south of Spanish Harlem. His main inspiration was a drug addict pimp who stood on a street corner all day hitching his trousers, twitching his neck, and repeating, "What do you hear? What do you say?" This mannerisms came back to haunt Cagney. He later wrote his autobiography. I did his gestures maybe 6 times in a picture. That was over 30 years ago, and the impressionists have been doing me, doing him ever since. Okay, one more because this one's pretty cool. The title of the film is referenced in Home Alone, 1990. In its sequel, in the 2 movies, Kevin watches 2 gangster movies called Angels with Filthy Souls and Angels with Even Filthier Souls. I love that. It's a very cool reference to this actually pretty damn decent film. So my overall opinion on this film, because this film is one that I didn't know if I would actually like at first, but the idea of these 2 individuals who were basically on the same path at one point, but one, got deeper into it, and another one became better, became a priest. That's, I know today that priests are held kind of lower than they once were. They used to be like, the pillar of an entire community, but today, many people look upon them with suspicion, which I get, especially for Catholic priests. There's reasons, and I won't be going too deep into that because, don't want to offend anybody, and 2, it's pretty sad and disgusting. But it's pretty interesting to see, and I think that the film has a really good message. It's a kind of good versus evil thing going on to a degree. So this film gets a what do I want to say? I think an 8 would be pretty solid for this film, honestly. But the next film is one that I didn't know how to feel about it, honestly. I really did not know how to feel about it. So let me go right here. Sorry, I had to lower the volume on something I was listening to while doing this. This film is called The Baker's Wife, or rather, La Femme du Boulingre. This is a French film, if you couldn't tell. A small village rejoices at the arrival of a new baker, but when his young wife runs off with another man, he's unable to keep baking and the village is thrown into disarray. That's crazy. Going to a whole new town and losing your girl. That's actually kind of tough. So, to basically go a bit further, the setting is a small village in Provence, with the villagers devoting much of their time to bickering and feuding. You love to see it, right? They're all relieved when the new baker, Emilio Castaneda, moves into the village, as they have not had quality bread in a while. Ariel Constair, Amiible's much younger wife, soon leaves her husband in favor of a handsome young shepherd. Amiible is miserable without her, and he is no longer able to concentrate on baking. In a town meeting, the villagers decide to send search patrols to look for Ariel. Longtime foes are setting aside their differences to ensure the village has bread and other baking goods. So the reason why I didn't care for this film is because the whole premise is that this guy loses his girl to a shepherd. And the village, they're like, "You guys, we love bread so much that we're all ops. We all hate each other, but we like bread more. We have to find this Jezebel right now because we need our damn bread man." And I just thought that premise was stupid. It still is stupid. But our director here is Marcel Pagnol. Our stars is Ramu, Gannett Leclerc, and Frenard Charpin. These are not figures I've ever heard of before, so they're pretty local to their area. One was water for me. So, let's go down to trivia because lordy, this film is something. People actually really enjoyed it. By the way, I just couldn't get into it. After World War II, Orson Welles came to see director Marcel Pugno, told him he saw the movie and he would like to meet Rameau, the greatest actor in the world. According to Welles, Pugno answered, Rameau recently died, and Welles burst into tears. Damn. That is actually pretty damn sad. The film is mentioned in the novel Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Marcel... My bad, people. I had to quickly check on something, so you'll see a small little cut there. My apologies again. So, as I already said, the film is mentioned in the novel Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, and Marcel Pugno wrote the part of Ariel Castner for Joan Crawford. The American actress declined because she didn't speak French. The part, which has a minimal amount of lines for a title role, went to Giselle Leclerc. It's it's pretty much a shame because I feel like Miss Crawford would have worked here pretty well. So what do I want to give this film for a whole score, a rating? I honestly don't know how to really feel on this film because it really the premise really does make me kind of angry. Not angry, it just makes me feel a very certain way. It's like, wow, this film is kind of silly. So I guess I'll give it a 5. I really don't want to give the film a horrible ending. So yeah, a 5 just works. But especially because like how the film ends is even more silly. And I really don't want to spoil it, but it doesn't know it ends very very sillily, and she is basically shamed. That's all all you really need to know. Next film is called Boys Town. This is a film I actually did enjoy. Just of course, as always, people. My opinion is my opinion, and you guys can see these films and you can form your own. Boys Town was filmed by Norman Taurog. The stars are Spencer Tracy, Mickey Rooney, and Henry Hall. I cannot pronounce that word. I'm sorry. But so Spencer Tracy is a name I've seen plenty of times for this. It's actually pretty interesting how much I've seen his name like in the last few years. So to describe the storyline a little bit better, is when a death row prisoner tells him he wouldn't have led a life of crime if only he had one friend as a child, Father Edward Flanagan, decides to take action. An advocate of child rights and an opponent of the severe approach to juvenile delinquency at the time, Flanagan genuinely believes that there is no such thing as a bad boy. Starting with just a few boys in a rented house, Father Flanagan eventually establishes Boys Town, on 200 acres of land, 10 miles outside of Omaha, Nebraska. Much of the film focuses on Flanagan's attempts to influence one boy, Whitey Marsh, who will become a hoodlum if he doesn't change his ways. When Whitey is implicated in a bank robbery, it puts all the boys' towns at risk. Throughout it all, Flanagan has to fight prejudice and those who believe delinquents should just be locked up, and the never-ending shortage of money to accomplish his goals. That is actually perfect. Very, very perfect. This is a pretty awesome film. So the person Edward Flanagan, this is actually based on I believe like a whole actual real thing going on here. Father Edward Flanagan, who died almost 10 years after this film was released, was the first person ever to live to see somebody win an Oscar for portraying him. So I think that is actually really cool. I can't recall that ever being a thing for anyone else. Oh my. Let me lower the volume. Apologies, my dear people. Okay. When shooting began on the movie, Mickey Rooney really tried to steal scenes by fumbling with a handkerchief, pulling faces, and other bits of business. This so annoyed Spencer Tracy that he threatened to have Rooney thrown off the movie unless he behaved. Sounds about right. Father Flanagan was paid $5,000 for the movie rights to his book. The movie made a profit of $2 million. Ugh. Okay. Boys Town is a real city in Douglas County, Nebraska. It has a boys' mayor, a post office, police department staffed by adult sworn officers, but the 2010 population of Boys Town was 745. The highest population, Lord, for Boys Town was 997 in the 1960 census. That's pretty cool to know this is actually like a whole real thing. Like, does it still exist today? Hold on, I'm looking this up. It does still exist? Huh. Go figure. What's the population now? It's an estimate of 607. So it is declining. That's just how it be sometimes, honestly. But that is how it be. The film gets a easy 6. Next up is Bringing Up Baby. This is a great film. A very great film. Oh, man. So, especially because it has a very cool cover. Make sure the recording is still properly going. Because I actually edit this video now because I had to cut because of my little break there. So, Bringing Up Baby was filmed by Howard Hawks. The stars include Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, and Charles Ruggles. Mr. Ruggles. I love that guy. Katharine Hepburn is an icon, and I believe we'll see her a bit more. I honestly don't know when she actually retires. I think it's sometime in the 40s. Could be wrong, though. So, mild-mannered paleontology professor Dr. David Huxley is excited by the news that an intercostal clavicle bone has been found to complete his brontosaurus skeleton, a project 4 years into construction. He is equally excited about his imminent marriage to assistant, the officious Alice Swallow. Oh my. He was interested in him more for his work than for him as a person. David needs the $1 million endowment of wealthy dowager Mrs. Carrollton Random to complete the project. Her lawyer, Alexander Peabody, will make the decision on her behalf, so David needs to get his favor. However, whenever David tries to make a good impression on Peabody, the same young woman always needs to do something to make him look bad. She is the flighty heiress Susan Vance. The more David wants Susan to go away, the more Susan seems not to want or be able to. But David eventually learns that Alexander Peabody is her good friend, who she calls Boopy. And Susan's aunt Elizabeth, with whom David has also made a bad impression without her knowing who he is Mrs. Carlton Random. However, getting in Aunt Elizabeth and Boopy's good graces is not as easy as Susan smoothing the waters with them. Throw into the mix a tame pet leopard named Baby that Susan's brother Mark explicitly sends her from Brazil. This is, yeah, you see, it's a very wacky film, which I love it. It's great. Aunt Elizabeth's big game hunting friend, Major Horace Applegate, Aunt Elizabeth's pet terrier George, who is a penchant for burying bones and other things, and a traveling circus passing through town, and David may never be able to finish his project or make it to his wedding. But David may come to realization that there is something more important in his life. Oh boy, that's a lot going on there. So obviously, this is from all that, it's very screwball-y. This is a true comedy. Despite the story that sounds pretty intense. Throughout filming, RKO executives complained that the film was destined to become a commercial failure. They asked Howard Hawks to insert more romance and less slapstick, and told him to take away Cary Grant's glasses, but he ignored them. Katharine Hepburn had never done any comedy before. It was coached by Howard Hawks and several veteran vaudevillians he employed solely for that purpose. As a former vaudevillian, Cary Grant was already well versed in comedy. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, by the way. Sorry. The scene in which Susan's dress is ripped was inspired by something that happened to Cary Grant. He was at the Roxy Theater one night and his pants zipper was down when it caught on the back of a woman's dress. Grant impulsively followed her. When he told the story to Howard Hawks, Hawks loved it and put it in the film. This film. So how can I explain this? How this film made me feel when I was looking through it? Because the comedy is really top tier, and I think the story, unlike in most films, while it did not get the pure center stage, I thought it was really good. It did balance both sides really well, which unfortunately, up until this point, not a lot of films could do, which is it's always unfortunate to see that these films, if they put like a little bit more effort in the story, it would have been a truly solid film, at least in my opinion. This film gets a 9. So let us go to the next film, The Citadel. Let me go over here and make sure I have the right information, because the Citadel, there's a lot of films with the name The Citadel. Here we go, The Citadel. Which every time I hear the word Citadel, I think of the Mass Effect. This is directed by King Vidor. The stars is Robert Donat, Rosalind Russell, and Ralph Richardson. A lovely cast, honestly. So the storyline includes Andrew Manson, a young enthusiastic doctor, takes his first job in a Welsh mining town. He begins to wonder at the persistent cough many of the miners have. When his attempts to prove its cause are thwarted, he moves to London. His new practice does badly, but when a friend shows him how to make lucrative practice from rich hydroponics, or hydrotronics, I cannot pronounce that word at all, it will take a great shock to show him what the truth of being a doctor really is. Okay. To trivia. Vivian Leigh, Greer Garson, and Gerald Fitzgerald screen tested for a role of Christine. Or rather, Geraldine Fitzgerald, my apologies, by the way. Elizabeth Allen was announced as leading lady and sued MGM after she was replaced by Rosalind Russell. Oh my. And the final bit of trivia, we'll just quickly say this one. The movie's initial telecast took place in Seattle Tuesday, March 5th, 1957 on King. Alright, that's a pretty quick one, honestly. I thought the film was decent. Not anything real special. 5, honestly. Apologies, I had to get another sip of water. This has been a very long day. It's also a whole I'll say this, a drama film, and drama films are not a thing that really intrigue me. That is what I will say. I believe a remake of this film did happen though, like multiple times. It was like that popular. This is called Four Daughters, which I'm referring to, by the way. So the description of this film is: a musician is blessed with 4 musical prodigies, all girls, and cursed when a troubled young composer enters the lives of his daughters. Which, I mean, fair. You have a scallywag that shows up, and you're trying to corrupt his beautiful daughters, and that's the thing there. So the director here is Michael Curtis, and our stars is Claude Rains, John Garfield, and Jeffrey Lynn. So let me go down to our lovely bit of story, like a bit of storyline here. So I will read some of this, not all of it. This is a pretty long storyline that I want you guys to understand beyond just the description, of course. Adam Lemp, the dean of the Briarwood Music Foundation, has passed on his love of music to his 4 daughters, Thea, Emma, Kay, and Anne, who live with him, and his sister, the girl's aunt Etta. In the longtime family home of the 4, Kay has raised promise as a musical performer, specifically as a singer. Theirs is a loving family. However, much of the girls aspirate their father with their love of popular music, since he only loves the classics, especially Beethoven. The girls support one another however they can, but each is an individual with her own distinct personality, and once including the type of husband each wants. Practical but deep in her heart, romantic Emma has a long courted by their next-door neighbor, unassuming florist Ernest Talbot. Clever Thea wants to be Mrs. Ben Crowley. He's a wealthy up-and-coming banker with prospects. Only Anne, the fun-loving youngest, states that she doesn't want to get married. Their lives change with the arrival of 2 men. The first is Adam, Adam's old friend's son, popular music composer and conductor Felix Dietz, who easily gets a job at the foundation using his natural and sincere charm, which he applies to all equally. Many women can construe that charm for romantic interest. The second is Felix's acquaintance, musician Mickey Bourdin. whom he hires to illustrate his latest composition. Mickey has a chip on his shoulder about what life has dealt with him, which he uses for reason for living a reckless life. The two men make each of the four daughters re-examine what she thinks she wants in life, or more precisely, who she wants, which for all may maybe seem the same person. I actually read all that. Holy crap! I was so embedded in there. So this is a drama, a romance, and a whole thing going on here. That's how it is, obviously. Mm. And with a bit of music going on. So I honestly think this is a film I really, really did enjoy this whole film. Do I think it's the best film in the world? No. But it's a really great film. Let me just make sure I have some things loaded up for when I have to do the sci-fis a bit later. Apologies. Okay, let's go on to the trivia. This movie was John Garfield's first film and earned him his first Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He would receive one other Oscar nomination for Best Actor in the Body and Soul, 1947. John Garfield admitted that he based the way he played his character Mickey Borden on Oscar Levant. Okay. This was remade as a musical, Young at Heart, 1954, with Doris Day and Frank Sinatra. Oh my lord. I love Frank Sinatra. So that'll be very, very fun to look at. Ooh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So, let me go over here, make sure I have this right. Okay. Sorry, I think make sure everything is right here, otherwise I'll be so angry with myself. This next film is one that I'm gonna be real. I did not did I watch this one? I did. I actually had notes for it. So I'm like, so I do know very soon a movie I did not watch will be coming up. But this is a film I did watch. So it is film. So oh wait, hold on. I should introduce it again. It's called Holiday. It's about a young man who is in love with a girl from a rich family. Finds his unorthodox plan to go on holiday for early years of his life is met with skepticism by everyone except for his fiance's eccentric sister and long-suffering brother. I don't know why I was struggling with that one there. It was directed by George Cukor, and the stars are Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, and Doris Nolan. So a pretty strong lineup right there. This is for those people alone. So, over here, free-thinking Johnny Case finds himself betrothed to a millionaire's daughter. When her family, with the exception of Black Sheep, Linda, and drunken Ned, want Johnny to settle down to big business, he rebels, instead wishing to spend the early years of his life on holiday. With the help of his friends Nick and Susan Potter, he makes up his mind as to which is better course and the better mate. Okay. Trivia. Edward Everett Horton repeats the role of Nick Porter, or maybe Potter. I don't know why I was saying Porter, which he also played in the previous version of the film, Holiday, 1930. I don't believe I actually seen the original. Upset at the negative publicity that star Katharine Hepburn was receiving in advance of the film, studio boss Harry Cohn proposed to take out an ad in Variety asking what is wrong with Katharine Hepburn. Hepburn cautioned Cohn against the idea, stating, "Look out, they may tell you." I actually really, really like I really like Katharine Hepburn. She's great. She is really great. So you know what? Sure. One more piece of trivia. Cary Grant performed his own tumbling stunts before becoming an actor. He was part of an acrobatic troupe in vaudeville. Okay. So, let me quickly discuss my feelings on this film, because this film was one I actually did enjoy. I think it's a film that has a message that kind of rings true to the modern day, especially in regards to when a man or woman, joins a new family. They're often expected to really, not compromise, but really fold on what they want to keep the peace. And obviously this film kind of shows that, that people, the family wants him to do this, but he wants to do something else, which I think is really cool to see. Um, Films that ring true to to the modern day, and very, it's a timeless message, I think deserve a higher rating generally, at least in my opinion. It was me being biased, obviously, but still, this film gets a easy 8. Next up is a film with a name that will yeah, it's a very certain name to it. It's called Jezebel. This is a very popular insult, especially amongst Christians, towards women who are deemed rather loose, and that's just how it be. This film is about in 1850s Louisiana. A free-spirited Southern belle loses her fiance due to her stubborn vanity and pride, and vows to win him back. So yeah, I love that this is based around a woman and not a man. It's not often that we see a film that, okay, this is not me trying to be toxic or be misogynistic. It's just that when we see a character take accountability, especially in this time frame, it's usually always centered around a man, because this is how the film industry was back then, that the man is the main star. And it's not often we see a woman take accountability in such a role. Like her role is to play the woman who is trying to win back her man because she was being a dunderhead. And it's usually, the other way around, which I think is so cool. It's kind of, pretty progressive, all things considered. So our director here is William Wyler, and our stars is Bette Davis, Henry Fonda, and George Brent. So a very strong lineup. Bette Davis is a lovely person. Ooh boy. So let me get down to a bit more of a story here, so you guys can get a better feel. In one of her most recent renowned roles, Bette Davis portrays Julie Marsden, a spoiled Southern belle who risks losing her suitor with her impetuous behavior. Lord, I cannot say that word. Engaged to a successful banker, Preston Dillard, Julie pushes him away with her arrogant and contrary ways, leading to a scandalous scene at a major social event and her subsequent departure. When Preston eventually returns and Julie tends to win him back, she discovers that it may be too late. So, I probably didn't have to read that, but whatever. Following a quarrel with William Wyler, Bette Davis embarked on an affair with Henry Fonda that greatly increased tensions on the set. After a phone call from Fonda's pregnant wife, she called things off. Jesus! It's always scandalous to see and hear these types of things. According to Robert Osborne, Julie's red dress was actually bronze colored, because bronze showed up better on black and white film than red would. Makes sense. So, oh boy. Bette Davis allegedly took 45 takes to perfect the scene where she lifts her riding skirt with her crop. Okay. Whew. One more. Just because this is such a good film. Bette Davis cried for days after finishing, and with good reason. Not only had she finished one of the most rewarding artistic experiences in her career, but she was also pregnant with William Wyler's child. Are we sure it's Are we sure it's his child? Because she had an affair. Around the same time. Am I wrong for thinking that? You know what? I'm gonna quickly look that up. Does it is it? I feel like it's messed up to to look it up. But is William Wyler the real father of Bette Davis's child? Because there was an affair. But you know what? It's whatever. That is me being a little silly. So that film gets this is a film where I really enjoyed this, and I love that the message is a pretty damn progressive. All things considered for a film from 1938. Honestly, a 10. I really did enjoy this. It was really good. So next up is The Lady Vanishes, which this is a film I did see this one. So the film after that is the one I did not see. because this is a film that's very, very essential. It's called The Lady Vanishes. Once again, I had to say it one more time. The film is, filmed, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. The stars include Margaret Lockwood, Michael Redgrave, and Paul Lucas. So a very great lineup. Oh, any film that's like by Hitchcock is already goated, by the way. So our storyline here, there's a lot going on here. Passengers on a scheduled train out of the mountainous European country of Mandrika are delayed by a day due to an avalanche, and must get up close and personal with each other out of necessity. And the only and what becomes an overcrowded inn in the area. Once the train departs, the one person who it is uncertain is on the train in the middle of words is a middle-aged English governess, Miss Troy. Iris Henderson, who was vacationing in Madriga with girlfriends before heading back to England to get married, is certain that Miss Froy was on a train as they were in the same compartment, and they had tea together in a dining car. But all those people who can corroborate her story don't seem to want to do so. Iris's faults are easily dismissed as a possible concussion, as Iris was hit over the head just before boarding the train. Iris will take anyone's help in finding Miss Froy, even that of an Englishman named Gilbert, a musicologist, with whom she had not a pleasant encounter at the inn before. As Iris and Gilbert go on their quest throughout the train, they believe there is a conspiracy amongst many passengers amongst the validity that there being a Miss Froy. But there is a conspiracy. Iris and Gilbert still have to find Miss Froy and find out why anyone would want to kidnap a middle-aged English governess. I don't think I worded anything there. And find out why anyone would want to kidnap a middle-aged English governess. Okay. So this film, as you can probably tell, it's a mystery. And it really does remind me of Clue, kinda. Because Clue is I believe like one of the greatest mysteries for a film ever. Which, I mean, is fair. It was a really damn good film. So, let us go down to the trivia. In order to get a realistic effect, Sir Alfred Hitchcock insisted that there should be no background music, except at the beginning and the end. Between those 2 points, the only music heard is the music sung by musicians outside the hotel. The music tune of Miss Froy, the Colonial Boogie March, music hummed by Gilbert. The dance music conducted by Gilbert in his hotel room, and the dance music when Iris meets Gilbert in the train. The cricket-obsessed characters, Charters and Kettleclot, were created especially for this movie, and do not appear in the novel written by Ethel Lena White. Shot almost entirely at Island Studios in London, the scenery the train passes is all rear projection. Okay. So. Oh boy. Whoa. I don't know why, but all the things I had here were all lowered. That should not be. So the film, I think, gets a 7. Do I think this is the greatest film ever? No. But for a mystery, which, I do enjoy, it does, tickle that special place in my heart. But not enough to, get higher than a 7. So next up is a film that I did not actually get to partake in. So I will not be covering it, obviously, but I will mention, what it is, because it's a film that I will be going back to eventually. It's called Olympia. So now you know. Is a film by the Germans. And by very, very, very particular Germans. So the no Germans, if you will. That's what I'll be calling them here. So after that this is a word that I will be butchering. I'm so sorry. Pygmalion. That was probably mispronounced. A phonics and distinction expert makes a bet that he can teach a Cockney flower girl to speak proper English and passes a lady in high society. Pretty sweet, pretty simple. Directors include Anthony Asquith and Leslie Howard. Stars include Leslie Howard, Wendy Hiller, and Wilfred Lawson. All right, so let's go to a bit more storyline here. The Stanwich, an intellectual professor of languages, Henry Higgins makes a big bet with his friend that he can pluck a London flower seller, Eliza Doolittle, from the gutters and pass her off as a society lady. However, he discovers that this involves dealing with a human being with ideas of her own. Isn't that how it is, man? Wendy Hiller was personally chosen to play the part of Eliza Doolittle by author George Bernard Shaw. That's a name I've heard so many times back in damn school, I swear to God. The first movie to use the word bloody in its dialogue. This may not make much of an impression on a modern and/or American audience, but that particular expletive was considered extremely vulgar. That is actually pretty fucking funny. Okay, what do I feel about this film? That's a really good question. I think that this film, it's really freaking funny. That's what I'll say off the cuff. It was really freaking funny. Because I love the idea of this guy making a bit, hey man, this is my whole job, man. I'm good at this shit. Watch this. You see her? But I was about to make her into a high society lady. Meanwhile, her. I took that offensively. No, but I thought this film was great. But what would be a good score for it? 8. Yeah, this film is a 8 in my heart. So, this next film, it might be the first tenor, by the way. It's called Test Pilot. It was filmed by director Victor Fleming, and the stars include Clark Gable, Myrna Loy, and Spencer Tracy. The Squad, back once more. Now, let's give us a quick storyline coverage here. Jim Lane is a test pilot whose professional life is dangerous and whose personal life compensates for that danger by fast flying and recklessness. Lord. As such, he lives from paycheck to paycheck and is often in debt, but knows his lucrative job will eventually get him out of those debts. On a coast-to-coast record, attempt speed flight, Jim's plane, the Drake Bullet, named after the company's owner, hits some mechanical problems, and Jim is forced to make an emergency landing on a farmer's field in Kansas. The farm belongs to the Barton family, whose straight-talking daughter, Ann Burton, falls for Jim, and vice versa. They impulsively decide to get married and live in New York. Jim's sidekick and mechanic, Gunner Morse, doesn't know Jim and marriage go hand in hand, both because of the type of person he is and his profession. And too soon learns that she is plays second fiddle to Jim's work. She referring to the sky as Jim's mistress, and also truly comes to understand the dangers of Jim's work. He who is often required to push planes beyond limits of their physical limits. With each flight, Anne fears that she will become a widow, as she's seen it before with wives of Jim's colleagues. Can Jim and Anne's marriage survive the many pressures stemming from Jim's life as a test pilot? So the reason why I think this film is a 10, like screw the trivia for a minute, is because I think it is just so amazing. It's kind of screwball in how it was handled. That he let it down, fall in love, marriage immediately. But that's just how it is for some people. Some people literally just do that. They see a person like, wow, I have to marry them. That actually happened to a person that was like kind of like a big name, at least in recent years. Is Candace Owens. I will not be talking about her very much because she's a political person. But yeah, that's basically how how she and her husband got together. They saw each other like, wow, we were together pretty well. Let's get married, and they did that. So onto the trivia, because lordy, words are not going wording very well right now. Reportedly, Myrna Loy's personal favorite movie of all of her films. Included among the American Institute's 2001 list of 400 movies nominated for the top 100 most heart-pounding American movies. The four-engine bomber flown by Gable and Tracy near the end of the film was a Boeing Model 299B Y1B-17 Flying Fortress. It was one of the... Okay, that's a lot of words. I'm not doing all that. But, yeah, this film, it honestly is a easy 10. No matter what. This film is a 10, and at least for me. So this is our last film of the day. I don't believe I skipped over anything. So besides Olympia, this is You Can't Take It With You. The son of a snobbish Wall Street banker becomes engaged to a woman from a good-natured but decidedly eccentric family, but not realizing that his father is trying to force her family from their home for real estate development. So yeah, there's gonna be some comedy going on here. It was directed by Frank Capra, and the stars include Jane Offer, James Stewart, and Lionel Barrymore. I love Lionel Barrymore. Oh, great. uh, sorry, I make sure that I have my Siphies already because that's coming up right next, and I make sure I get everything all good here. So now we have this all loaded up, and I will not be making a fool of myself. Let's go to an extended story for this here. Cinematographer Alice Sycamore, Sycamore, is in love with her boss, Tony Kirby, who is a vice president of a powerful company owned by his greedy father, Anthony P. Kirby. Kirby Sr. is dealing a monopoly in the trade of weapons and needs to buy one last house in a 12-block area owned by Alice's grandfather, Martin Vanderhoof. However, Martin is the patriarch of an Arctic and eccentric family where the members do not care for money, but for having fun and making friends. When Tony proposes to Alice, she states that it will be mandatory to introduce her simple and linguistic family to the snobbish Kirbys. And Tony decides to visit Alice with his parents one day before scheduled to get together. There is an inevitable clash of classes and lifestyles. The Kirbys spur into Sycamores, and Alice breaks with Tony, changing the lives of the Kirby family. So I think this is a pretty cool film, just because of how it's two worlds clashing. I mean, it's very eccentric, and I think it's really cool seeing these people that are snobs. They're this is how these people that always say eat the rich always are, these type of people that we're talking about for real. This really clash, and it's great. I mean, do I think this is the best film? I like always. This is obviously no. But I really did enjoy this. But to trivia, shortly before filming began, Lionel Barrymore lost the use of his legs to crippling arthritis and a hip injury. To accommodate him, the script was altered so that his character had a sprained ankle, and Barrymore did the film on crutches. That was nice of them. That was very nice. Lionel Barrymore would receive injections every hour to help relieve the pain of his arthritis. Jeez, it had to be really bad, man. The first of only two Best Picture... let me restart that. The first of only two Best Picture Academy Award winners to have been adapted from a screen from plays, which won the Pulitzer Prize. The other is Driving Miss Daisy in 1989. Okay, so this film is getting an 8. Just gonna put it out there right now. I think that this film is... It was perhaps one of my favorite comedies. It's not my favorite comedy, by any measure. Because I think the clashing was a great part of it, and there's a lot of slap shit going on here because it's eccentrics versus snobs. I think if they focused more on the actual story, this could have been even grander in my eyes. But let's just talk about movies overall for this year. I think movies were strong. It was a very strong year for movies. But next year is even better. If I recall right, it was a really good year. Could be wrong though. I might be misremembering. I do know that the 40s sees a whole lot of propaganda going on, a whole shit ton of it. But let us cover our next lineup, which is the Siphies. So we will now be talking about each of the categories. So we have a lot of categories going on here. And I'm trying to pull this from Wikipedia right now because to make sure I actually have the proper award winners for this lovely year. This is the 11th Academy Awards. So that is yay. So Best Picture, the original winner was You Can't Take It With You, which I suppose it's very much well deserving of that. So I want to be changing my opinion on that one. But the Best Director would go to Frank Capra, also the same director as before. Do I agree with this? I think the film was great, but I actually want to give it to the director of the fellow who did The Adventures of Robin Hood. So let me just pull up his name real fast, just so I obviously didn't have it on hand. It goes okay. This is a duo, Michael Curtis and and William Cayley. So that is who I believe deserved it. Best actor will actually still go to a person tied to that film, which is Errol Flynn, because he's just a badass. Honestly, I'd give it to him. But the original though was Spencer Tracy for Boys Town. Best actress, best Bette Davis. I agree. This is tied to the film Jezebel, and I think she did perfectly for that film. Best supporting actor, they said it was Walter Brennan. Um, do I believe it? Do I think this? Or rather, I might just skip this one because I don't really have any. I don't really have any opinions on any of the supporting actors. So I'll skip over those. Best adapted screenplay. I'll skip that one too because some of these I'm like, we didn't really cover any of those in our past anyway. Best film editing. The Adventures of Robin Hood. It was by Ralph Dawson. I can see that. But the film that really dominated this year was you can't take it with you, which had a total of 5 nominations and 2 wins. I think that is ooh, holy crap. Overall, I think that's where I'm gonna end the Syphies. This year is kind of weird, and I don't really want to drag it on for too long, as my voice is really starting to kill me, and I really do apologize for that, by the way. So I will now go to music. And this year for music has been, well, a time. It has been a time. Of course, by the way, jazz is still king, because of course it is. But my favorite song of this year actually went to "Don't Be That Way" by Benny Goodman. It's just a really good song, at least in my opinion. There's not much else to really say about music because it's all really the same. There's nothing really special happening thus far until next year, where Polka's like, "Hey, let me introduce myself." So that is it for 1938. This year has been a wild one. Really good films all around. This is pretty much my highest rated year thus far, I believe. That's how it is in Huntsville. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe for more, and peace.